Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. We are continuing with Caitanya Charitamrta Adi Lila Chapter 3 Text number 6. भ्रमार एक दीने तीनों एक बार अवतीर्ण हना करेना प्रकट विहार. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Once in a day of Brahma, he descends to this world to manifest his transcendental pastimes. Om Jnanathimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We have actually heard about the day of Brahma, and Srila Prabhupada has given us in his purports in Bhagavad Gita, where he states that 8,600,000,000 years is equal to one day of Brahma. And 1,000 of such yugas, ages, is equal to one day of Brahma. So you say 1,000 ages, which is also known as a kalpa, is 8,600,000,000 years. And we have learned from the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and even in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 17, there's talk about Brahma's day. So the total age of Lord Brahma is 100 years, which is equal to, in our calculation, in our earthly years, it is 311 trillion 40 billion. 311 trillion 40 billion years. So here, once in a day of Brahma, he descends to this world to manifest his transcendental pastime. He means who? The Supreme Lord manifests. Text number 7. Satya Treta Dwapar Kali Chari Yuga Jani Se Chari Yuge Divya Eka Yugamani. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. We know that there are 4 ages or yugas, namely Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. These 4 together constitute one Divya Yuga. Srila Prabhupada very kindly has given us this information also in his purports in Bhagavad Gita, where he says, this is according to the scriptures, that Satya Yuga duration is 1,728,000 years. Treta Yuga is 1,296,000 years. Dwapar Yuga is 864,000 years, and Kali Yuga 432,000 years. Now when we add up all these number of years, that comes to 4,320,000. So 4,320,000 is this figure is known as a Divya Yuga. And that is what is being talked about in this verse, that these 4 together constitute one Divya Yuga. Verse number 8. Ekatara Chaturyugi Eke Manamantara Chaudamanamtara Brahmara Divasabhitara. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. 71 Divya Yugas constitute one Manavantara. There are 14 Manavantaras in one day of Brahma. Purport. A Manavantara is a period controlled by one Manu. The reign of 14 Manus equals the length of one day, which is 12 years in the life of Brahma, and the night of Brahma is of the same duration. These calculations are given in the authentic astronomy book known as Surya Siddhanta. An annotated Bengali translation of this book was compiled by the great professor of astronomy and mathematics, Bimala Prasad Datta, later known as Bhakti Saraswati Goswami, who was our merciful spiritual master. He was honored with the title Siddhanta Saraswati for translating the Surya Siddhanta, and the title Goswami Maharaj was added when he accepted sannyas, the renounced order of life. A very powerful purport. So here we are learning about Manvantaras, and the reference is being given from Surya Siddhanta. Yes, it is beyond our conception, it's difficult, but Prabhupada says references are very important and it's good to have the knowledge. Yes, we cannot comprehend it, but understand that this is authentic knowledge. And here in the purport, we can see Srila Prabhupada is glorifying his spiritual master. He calls him he was, and he is making us understand and reminding us that his merciful spiritual master. Why does he call his spiritual master merciful? Because spiritual, bona fide spiritual master is the only one who can take us back to Godhead, who can guide us, who can help us, who can show us the way back to the spiritual world. And that is their mercy. That is the mercy of the spiritual master. That the spiritual master's goal is to deliver his disciples from this material world, from the cycle of birth and death. So here he's reminding us that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a great professor of astronomy and mathematics. And he's also giving us the reasons why he got those titles. The Siddhanta Saraswati title, because he translated Surya Siddhanta. And when he took sannyas, which means renounced order of life, his title was given Goswami Maharaj. Accepting sannyas. Sannyas is very important, especially in Kali Yuga. Now one may say, but Prabhupada says one should not take sannyas in Kali Yuga. We are not talking about renounced order of life in the sense as far as the body is concerned. We're talking about consciousness. We don't need to leave the house or the family or the job or anything. No, it's the consciousness that should be in the renounced order. Need to change, need to train our consciousness, train our mind, body, and consciousness to be renounced. And that will be possible only when we really work hard, sincerely endeavor to remove the anarthas. For those of us who still have anarthas in our heart, how we can remove those anarthas. When we come to the platform of Samadarshana, we see everyone equally and we are not affected by anything. It doesn't matter who says what to us, who does what to us, who does not do what to us. So it doesn't matter whether someone is giving us respect or someone is being rude to us. It should not matter at all. We have to come to that state of consciousness. And that will be possible only when we strive hard to remove the anarthas and also be very aware, be very conscious about how many anarthas are in the heart, which identify them, which are those anarthas, and then work hard to remove them one by one. It's important to evaluate ourselves. If I know the mind can be very tricky and convince us you don't have any anarthas. You're perfectly fine. First class. But we need to take guidance. The spiritual master is there, the senior devotees are there. We try and find out and work on those anarthas. And here we see that Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us about the day of Brahma and the night of Brahma. And he says these calculations are authentic. They are given in an authentic astronomy book called Surya Siddhanta. And we can see from this purport how he is honoring his own spiritual master. Generally, disciples remember the spiritual master when he's present in front of them. In the sense, they want to serve the spiritual master when he's there in person, inquire, render service, try and please the spiritual master. But what about the time when he's not personally present, right? At that time, we still need to serve the spiritual master through his instructions. Vani. Vapu is good. Vani is more important. Try and remember what are the instructions? What does our spiritual master tell us? Very simple, nothing complicated. It's Guru Maharaj's instructions are not like a book on astronomy that we have to really struggle hard to understand. Oh, this calculation. When I was researching these calculations, I was like, my head was reeling. 8,600,000,000 years is one day of Brahma. It's beyond our conception. All we know is I am X years old, and average age of Kali Yuga is 100 years, and that's it. We cannot go beyond that. If someone tells us, asks us, how old are you? And if we say, oh, I'm 70 years, 70 years old, it's like, oh, it's time for you to go. You're really old. This is our conception. And if someone says, I'm 15 years old, oh, yeah, you're still very young. Says who? Srila Prabhupada says, as soon as the child is born, if the mother is asked, after a few days, how old is your child? Doesn't say how young is your little baby. No, how old? Oh, my baby is 5 days old. Very happy about it. 5 days old, gone. 5 days gone. So we have to be very, very vigilant about the time. You have to be very, very careful that, like Srila Prabhupada also says, with every rising of the sun and setting of the sun, that time is gone. We cannot even buy it with all the wealth in the whole world. And here, in this particular purport, we can see the mood of Srila Prabhupada. How he is addressing his spiritual master, how beautifully he is glorifying his spiritual master. Great professor of astronomy and mathematics. Yes, all these number of years, 1 manvantara, 14 manvantaras in one day of Brahma, 71 Divya Yugas, and this is all beyond our conception. But still, it is important to know this knowledge. It's important to try and understand. And when we try and understand that, then we will realize, oh, our life is just like a speck of dust in front of all these number of years, right? Verse number 9. Vaivasvata nama e saptama manavantara sataisha chaturyuga tahara antara. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The present Manu, who is the seventh, is called Vaivasvata, or the son of Vivaswan. 27 Divya Yugas, which is 27 times 4,320,000 solar years of his age, have now passed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The names of the 14 Manus are as follows: Swayambhuva, Swarochisha, Uttama, Tamasa, Raivata, Chakshusha, Vaivasvata, Savarni, Daksha Savarni, Brahma Savarni, Dharma Savarni, Rudraputra or Rudra Savarni, Rochya or Deva Savarni, and Bhautyaka or Indra Savarni. These are the names of 14 Manus. Very nice knowledge. Good to know this. And good to know where we are now. We are in the time of Vaivasvata Manu. We learned this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, first verse. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam. And there in the purport also Srila Prabhupada has talked about this. So these names that are given here of 14 Manus, this is for us to understand that this is authentic reference given to us. It's not just someone randomly, saying, oh, there are 14 Manus. No, there is description. There are names of these 14 Manus. Verse number 10. Ashtavimsha Chaturyuge Dwaprera Sheshe Rajera Sahite Haya Krishnera Prakashe. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. At the end of the Dwapar Yuga of the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with the full paraphernalia of his eternal Vraja Dham. Purport. Now is the term of Vaivasvata Manu, during which Lord Chaitanya appears. First, Lord Krishna appears at the close of the Dwapar Yuga of the 28th Divya Yuga. And then Lord Chaitanya appears in the Kali Yuga of the same Divya Yuga. Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya appear once in a day of Brahma or once in 14 Manvantaras, each of 71 Divya Yugas in duration. From the beginning of Brahma's day of is it 4,320,000 or is it 4,320,000,000,000 years? 6 Manus appear and disappear before Lord Krishna appears. Thus, 1,975,320,000 years of the day of Brahma elapsed before the appearance of Lord Krishna. This is an astronomical calculation according to solar years. Again, we have reference of Lord Krishna's appearance. It's not random. This description given here of Divya Yugas and the duration of Manvantaras and all, this is not just random. There's very bona fide reference given to us. When does Krishna appear? When does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appear? And we also learn from here that they appear in the same Divya Yuga. When I was trying to read these numbers, it's hard to even read these numbers. How can we even calculate? It's beyond our conception. But we have the proof in the scriptures. The scriptures tell us in very minute detail when does Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appear. So, when does Krishna appear? He appears when Brahma is 1,975,320,000 years old. And here we are so proud of the age that we have. Oh, I am X number of years old. Or so and so, my grandparents, they live for 100 years. Or sometimes we see in the news the oldest person alive that was alive, or the oldest person who's alive is 108 years old or 111 years old or whatever it is. What is that compared to this? When Brahma's age is 1,975,320 years old, that is when Krishna appears, and during that same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears after Lord Krishna disappears. Very difficult to comprehend, yes, but it is true. Verse number 11, we'll do this last verse for today. Dasya Sakhya Vatsalya Shringara Chari Rasa Chari Bhavera Bhaktayata Krishna Tara Vasha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Servitude or dasya, friendship or sakhya, parental affection or vatsalya, and conjugal love or shringar are the four transcendental mellows or rasas. By the devotees who cherish these four mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. Purport. Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Shingar are the transcendental modes of loving service to the Lord. Shantaras, or the neutral stage, is not mentioned in this verse because although in Shantaras one considers the absolute truth, the sublime great, one does not go beyond that conception. Shantaras is a very grand idea for materialistic philosophers. But such idealistic appreciation is only the beginning. It is the lowest among the relationships in the spiritual world. Shantaras is not given much importance because as soon as there is a slight understanding between the knower and the known, active, loving, transcendental reciprocations and exchanges begin. Dasiras is the basic relationship between Krishna and his devotees. Therefore, this verse considers Dasya the first stage of transcendental devotional service. What a beautiful verse, and what a nice explanation by Srila Prabhupada. Whenever I sit down to prepare for the lecture, I always am amazed when I read the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, and I wonder how can anyone explain a translation without the purport? It's so difficult. Just read the translation and we cannot even imagine there is so much depth in that translation. But thanks to Srila Prabhupada, he makes it so easy and simple for us to understand. This is called receiving knowledge in strict disciplic succession. And this is what it is called the mercy of a bona fide spiritual master. So, here in this verse, we see four transcendental rasas. What is the result of these rasas? That Krishna can be subdued. How? Out of love, not out of demand, no, just out of love. Dasya, which is servitude. Sakhya is friendship, Vatsalya parental. And here, the fourth one, which is mentioned, is Shringar. Normally, we call it Madhurya Ras, right? But here it's called Shringar, the conjugal love of the devotees. I'm sorry, the gopis, the way gopis loved Lord Sri Krishna. Excuse me. Prabhupada says in the purport that the Shantaras is not mentioned. Shantaras is neutral. It's not mentioned. Why? Because in Shantaras, one does not really go beyond that. Right? That is, of course, the beginning, but it is very few who go beyond the Shantaras. And what is the Shantaras? Prabhupada explains, people just think God is great. That's it. But this rasa is the beginning, lowest relationship. But one can progress to the next rasa with the help of bona fide knowledge and bona fide spiritual master. Association is very, very, very important. We come across this point again and again and again. And Prabhupada has also shown us by example. And I think we also have noticed or felt the difference between personal association or physical association compared to Zoom association. I'm sure all of you will agree that how we felt, how much we learned, how much we were able to realize with personal association when we used to meet in the class compared to on Zoom, right? On Zoom, it's very what you can say, I won't say impersonal, but I won't even say personal, right? We are all sitting in our own homes, in the comfort of our own homes. And if we want to do something, just turn off the video, we can go get some water, do something, we can do anything. Even I, if I have to cough, go off the video or, you know, mute myself. So it's totally different, and we can see that even when we are hearing lectures of Guru Maharaj, right? When we hear him, watch him on YouTube or watch his live lectures from ISKCON Delhi, or his other recorded, it's different from when he's sitting right in front of us and giving a lecture, right? When he's sitting right in front of us, how is our attention? 100%, right? Out of respect. But when it is a recorded lecture, is it 100%? Probably not. We are doing other things while we are listening. Oh, yeah, lecture is going on. Let me do cooking or cleaning or this. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm trying to bring home the point that association is very, very, very important. When we associate with devotees, we hear from them, we learn from them, and we try and understand, and the relationship between the devotees also starts growing. But then again, it is our choice. We choose what do we want to do. Like when Guru Maharaj comes to Atlanta, there is one disciple who never comes to see him. He always has an excuse. Oh, I have my job, it's my um, what is that called, my shift, my shift is such that I cannot come to meet Guru Maharaj. Choice. If one has the choice, then one needs to choose wisely, right? Choosing and making an endeavor. Yes, spiritual masters. Every year, whenever Guru Maharaj came, I would call him. And every year he had that same excuse. I am working, it's my shift. There could be two reasons. One, spiritual master is not very important right now in my life. Second, material life is more important for me right now. And third reason, I haven't done anything, so how can I come in front of my spiritual master? Because I will be chastised. I will be told you're not chanting, or you're not chanting properly, or you're not reading, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the reason. But then it depends on our choice. That's what Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto mata smriti jnanam apohanam cha. So we make that choice. We choose what do we want to do. And we, based on this text that we read just now about the transcendental mellows, the four transcendental rasas, Srila Prabhupada has explained this in Bhagavad Gita also. And in Bhagavad Gita purports, he has taught us how to perform devotional service, right? Dasya ras. Dasya means servitude, means service. How do we serve? And Dasya ras, Prabhupada says, is the basic relationship with Krishna. We begin with service attitude. Just like there is a mention of in Dasyaras, who comes to our mind whenever we talk about Dasyaras? Hanuman, such a wonderful, pure devotee of Lord Ramachandra. When we talk about Sakyaras, we think about Arjuna, right? Best friend of the Supreme Lord. Vatsalya Ras, we think about Yashoda Maya, right? And also about those devotees who worship Laddu Gopal because they think that this Gopal is my baby. I remember meeting one devotee in Mumbai, and she had Laddu Gopal, and she was very particular. She said, "My Laddu Gopal eats 8 times a day." Because children get hungry, right? All the time they come inside and say, "What's there to eat? What's there to eat?" I remember going through that with my son and going through that with my grandson. You have to have mother and grandmother has to keep everything ready because the child is going to come anytime and say, "I'm hungry." So that is the mode of Vatsalya. Oh, my baby is hungry. Laddu Gopal is hungry. That is Vatsalya Ras. Like Yashoda Maya always kept butter ready for Krishna. Butter and yogurt and milk, everything ready for him. And then finally, this verse talks about Shringaras, which is Madhurya Ras, like the gopis, topmost relationship with the Supreme Lord. But Prabhupada is explaining in this purport that Dasya Ras is the basic rasa in which we can build a relationship between us and the Supreme Lord. That is the basic. So this verse is considering Dasya Ras to be the first stage of transcendental devotional service. What is devotional service? Devotional service is just training. It is a training that is being given to us in this material world so that we can prepare ourselves to go to the spiritual world. Because there is only service, no controlling. There we cannot control, and even if we have a spouse over there whom we recognize, "Oh, this was my spouse in the material world," I hope we don't remember, because that is attachment. But if we do, then it's like, "Oh, come on, go get this or do this for me." No, that won't work. No controllership at all. It's only service, only serving the Supreme Lord, because in the spiritual world, Krishna is the only controller, right? We are used to controlling, we are used to controlling. We try to control our body, which is beyond us. We are unable to control. We want to control. Prabhupada says we want to control not getting old, but is that in our hands? No. We have to grow old. Every day we are growing one day older. We're getting one more day older. We have finished 2020, we are already in 2021, and almost half of 2021 is gone. That means almost 5 months, 4.5 months of our life for this year is also over. We are used to being in control. We want to control everything. We want to control in job, in family, in friends, relatives, everywhere we want to. And if anything goes out of our control, what happens? We get angry because it's not going according to the way I want it to go. So here in this material world, this is a training ground for us. Training ground for us to remove these anarthas, because anger also is an anartha. Need to remove. Even we have to remove the idea of controllership. We cannot be the controller at all. So this is a training ground to remove anarthas. That is why Srila Prabhupada has given us so many books. He has given us his beautiful purpose so we can understand how to train our mind and body, both. Train them in such a way that there are no more anarthas left. I was listening to one lecture where this Prabhu was saying that Lord Krishna had built the Nanda Bhavan, where Nanda Maharaj and they used to live, the Nanda Bhavan. And he had put a condition that anyone who wants to enter Nanda Bhavan has to be free of anarthas. No anarthas allowed. If even a tinge of any anartha is there, They are not allowed inside Nanda Bhavan. When Srimati Radharani heard that, she built the Barsana Mahal. And what was the condition over there? Anyone who chants Krishna's name is welcome. How merciful, right? This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done for us. So merciful. He says you don't have to perform meditation, you don't have to do fire sacrifices, you don't have to do elaborate deity worship, which means with gold, silver, diamonds, and all. No, all we have to do is just chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Just chant, chant, chant. But when we, that stage of what you call attentive chanting will come only when we take on knowledge in association of devotees. Take the knowledge from bona fide source in association of devotees. When we hear attentively, then we will chant attentively. Then our body will be trained to serve. Then we will come to a stage where we will um, serve with our mind, body, and talent. And for that, Srila Prabhupada has given us the morning program, right? Wake up in the morning, chant our rounds attentively. Then Guru Maharaj says, read 2 hours every day. If we are unable to read, at least we need to hear lectures. Hear as many as you can. Why? Because this is how we will get trained on how we can go back to the spiritual world. What is the meaning of disciple? Discipline. That is what it means. So we need to discipline our mind, our body, discipline our thoughts, discipline all our actions that we perform, discipline our emotions. Yes, emotions, it's very hard to discipline, but at least we can keep a check on them, right? Keep a check on what am I speaking? How are my actions? And what are the emotions that I'm going through, right? How do we keep a check? Imagine if there is dirt on my back. Can I see it? I cannot see it because it's behind, it's on my back. I cannot see it. But who can see it? Someone who's behind me can see it, right? Or someone who's around me can see it. So when we are around devotees, when we are in association of devotees, they can check our dirt and they can remind us, oh, you know, I think there I see something, I see an anartha. Maybe you can work on it. So association helps us, guides us, helps us, and trains us how we can be free of anarthas, because we cannot go back to the spiritual world with anarthas. There has to be complete purification, full purification. I was preparing for a Harrisburg lecture for Monday. Beautiful verse where it says, the consciousness of the material body means spiritual consciousness expressed through the medium of a material body. Very high level. This consciousness is inferior, destructible, and perverted. But super consciousness of the supra mind in the spiritual plane is as good as the spirit soul and is never annihilated. I had to read that, I don't know how many times to really understand what is it. Supra mind. What is supra? Above or beyond. So he's talking about the spiritual mind. He's not talking about material mind. We have heard from Bhagavad Gita that we cannot go to the spiritual world with our material, subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego. We cannot do that. Everything has to be purified. Need to go above and beyond. So we are going to end here the 11th verse. We will end at 11th verse. If anyone has any questions.